Hi, I'm Adam.
And I'm Elisa.
And we are
Green Meeple, Purple Meeple.
We're here today to start a really cool little series where we're going to go through our game collection that we've amassed over the last almost 10 years, I guess. And we're going to go cube by cube and just give little reviews because we've never really talked about how we each feel about the games that we have in our collection. And then if there's any that we really don't like after all this time, we'll consider culling it so that we can maybe shrink down our collection and have it be a little more streamlined. What we're going to be using is the Z. Garcia patented target method. If you haven't seen his reviews before, it's T for theme, A for art, R for replayability, G for game length, E for the ease of play, and T for tactics. So thank you, Z. Garcia, for coming up with that. So I guess we'll just start with our first game out of this set, which is Roll for the Galaxy. Roll for the Galaxy. So this is Roll for the Galaxy, and if you haven't played it before, it's basically you're using dice, assigning them to different actions behind a screen, and then each round only the ones that you've assigned your dice to get activated, and then you're using it to ship goods from different planets, to put planets out, to all kinds of different things. It's all kinds of fun, I think. Very interesting, and we just got a chance to replay it the other night.
If you like Yahtzee, you get a Yahtzee cup in your player's color, though there's no purple in this game.
That's right.
And you can shake that cup and you get to add dice, and what you don't use you put back in your cup. So it's a good game.
Yeah, very cool. So first of all, we're going to just mention, we're not going to go through every bit of our target scores, but I think it would be good to just say what our top score or scores were for this game. So for me, replayability, I said, and tactics were both 10s. Ooh. For me. And that's just because we've played it only a relatively few times. I mean, it's hard when as we know, once we get a whole bunch of games, it's hard to have more than a few plays on any given game, especially when you have a bunch of kids, which we do. We have 3.
So when they show up.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit more challenging. But we do, we have played it enough times, and each time I've used different strategies to try to make my score go up, which to me indicates that it's not going to feel very samey, which is kind of neat. So that's why I gave it 10s on replayability and tactics.
I was really surprised you gave both of those a 10, though I also said that tactics, game length, and replayability were my top scores, but I only gave each of those 7s. And maybe I had a different view of the game, but
no, that's cool.
I like the tactics, though the Yahtzee cup when the kids are sleeping is a little annoying. But I do like the dice rolling and assigning dice as your worker placement, basically. So do you want to go over?
How about lowest scores?
Lowest scores?
Yeah, lowest scores next. My lowest score was art because
mine too.
Was it? Okay. Yeah, because it's funny. This game isn't really old, but it is one of the older games in the timeline of games that I've bought, and it's I think it says 2014. So yeah, almost I guess 10 years old now. Yeah, so 10 years, and there's just something about it that looks a little bit prototypey to me. And that's just, I mean, it's nothing that's going to keep me from playing it, but it just, as far as art goes, that was my low point. That for you too?
Yeah, and definitely the art does nothing for me.
Okay, so overall score for this game, once I added up all the scores and then divided by 6 for the different things, we get the average. Mine was a 7.5.
Wow, mine was an 5.8.
5.8?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, okay, we don't agree as much on that one.
But that's okay. That's fantastic. And that's what we're doing this for, is to find out. So do you feel like you enjoy playing it overall?
I think so.
Cool. You're
Yeah.
just a hard grader. See, I teach, and so maybe that's why I give.
I'm a stickler about everything.
All right, so our second game for this shelf is
Santa Monica. So Santa Monica is a game where basically you have a boardwalk, which you really have in Santa Monica. I've been there. And you place cards, you place people, and you have your people walk down the boardwalk, and you have to have certain players or the people that you place in a certain spot by the end of the game. It's basically, it's not round based. It's whoever has, I think it's 14 cards and then that triggers game end. Yeah. So you're actually creating a nice beach boardwalk with the ocean and the boardwalk and the restaurants and all those things.
Called a tableau in board gaming.
Tableau.
Yes. To use fancy board gaming language.
All right, so your top?
My top score was actually a tie again, but different tie. Let's see, for art and for ease of play, I gave them both an 8.
Okay, I gave ease of play an 8 also, and the theme. I really like the theme. I love going to the beach. Like I said, I've been to the Santa Monica Pier. It was a really cool place. And we actually took this game on a beach vacation recently. So that was a lot of fun to play that there.
Lowest score, I had actually a tie for replayability and tactics. I had a 6.
Okay. Similarly, I had a 6 for tactics and also a 6 for art. The art's pretty good, but it's nothing exciting, I guess you'd say.
Okay. I like there's little meeples that have, they're tourists, I think, or something, and they have the VIP, I think it is, has little sunglasses, and I just think
and then one of the guys has a camera around his neck.
Yeah, the tourist has so I like the meeple artwork. I think that's
so
cool.
My overall score for Santa Monica is a 7.
Also me. So
really?
There we go. So
okay.
we both like Santa Monica about the same.
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
So the next game on this shelf was a Kickstarter that I backed, and actually I backed not only this but the second part too. So this is Canvas, and as you can see, it's definitely an art themed game. And there's technically a third part. I decided not to back the third part just because we've got so many of the components with these two that I don't think the third one was necessary. But certainly it would complete the image, I guess, if I had that third one. But yeah, this is a beautiful game already. You can probably, like, spoiler alert, the art theme for me, the art score is going to be pretty high. So, go ahead.
All right, so you want to do high score first?
Yeah, high score.
Okay, my highest score for Canvas is an 8 for ease of play. It is easy to play. And sometimes I think, what did I say, high score? Is an 8. Well, let's just go ahead and go to my low score. It's easy to play, but some people get really involved in what their art piece looks like versus their scoring. So therefore, it makes the game length very long when it's a simple game.
Oh yeah, and I didn't really go over what I just kind of I got immersed in the beauty of the artwork. Essentially, what you're doing is building art pieces by layering cards. You're building cards with translucent images that kind of overlap. They get put into a card sleeve, and then you end up with 3 of them. You make an art piece, a unique art piece that has a unique title, name, and then different characteristics down at the bottom that might enhance each other. There's some that point to other ones and multipliers and things like that, and that's how you're getting your score. So I can agree with the fact that if you get overly involved and picky with the artwork itself rather than just scoring, that it can end up dragging the game a little bit. So that's fair.
Yeah, the game length and tactics for me was my lowest score at a 5.
All right.
You wanna go on?
Yeah, I'll do my higher one. For me, automatically theme and artwork are going to be way up there because art is one of my passions. You can probably see some of our Mickey posters in the background that are all fancy. And so I really can't, I almost can't resist an art themed game. And you'll probably see that happening as we move through the collection.
Speaking of that, it's actually kind of cool. Your boxes, there's a place that you can hang them as a piece of art. I don't know if I would want to do that with the game pieces in there, but you could hang them.
It's the whole thing is very clever, and I love that, and that just made me rocket that to the top. My low end is actually replayability, and I think that I gave that a 6, and that's because once you have done this, like, it's a really great thing to introduce to people and they get excited, but once you have done it, I can see that it would be a little bit samey and there'd be a lot of the same strategies happening from game to game.
Which is why this is not one of my favorite games, because it is easy to introduce to people, but I am really a big tactics and gameplay person. And so that kind of frustrates me a little bit. So my overall score for Canvas will be a 6.5.
All right. That's one of our little meeples now. Hold on a second.
2 hours later.
And we're back.
And that's what happens when you have 3 children under the age of 6.
Yes.
Good times. I don't even think we said the scores on this one, but mine in summary was, actually I gave this an 8.1, which I know is very high, but it's because I just love the artwork and I love building those paintings. It's really fun.
And my overall score is a 6.5 because, as I said, some of the gameplay in this one, it's less of the gameplay and more of the artwork, so it's just not one of my favorites.
That's fair.
So yeah.
All
right.
So our next one is, I think, from your...
Racoon Tycoon.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes.
Racoon Tycoon, yes. There we go. So Racoon Tycoon, and this one is, it's kind of hard to explain the overall game. Basically, you are a tycoon that is a raccoon, and you're trying to own...
He's a cute raccoon.
He is. You're trying to own railroads. You're trying to auction and raise the prices of goods so that your goods, when you sell them, are a higher value. And so anytime you sell them, it drops the value back down to the bottom, and then it's kind of, you almost have to press your luck with when you sell them, because if you wait one more turn, someone else might sell all their goods, and then that drops the price down, and then it's not worthwhile to sell all your goods. So there's a lot of that, and then the auction part is for the railroads, if I remember correct. It's been a little while since we played this, but the auctions are for the railroads, and if you get collections of sets of railroads, then they are worth points at the end, if I remember correctly.
And I like this one because of its tactics and just the different ways that you can score points and take your turn. So I guess we'll look at our points, our scores for this.
The high scores?
My highest would be the tactics for this game. I gave that an 8 for the reasons I already said.
I also gave that an 8, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that your highest?
That is not my highest, though, because for me, it is the art in this one. It is irresistible. The caricature, what do you call it when you make an animal like a human? Do you remember?
Lifelike?
Yeah, but there's a word. I can't remember. It'll probably pop into my head. But these anthropomorphic animals in Victorian era outfits. And it didn't even have to be animals, but they chose to do that. And I think that was a really good move. They almost look like portraits that you'd see at a museum. And I love looking at those. And I think the fun little components that are little coal blobs, or I can't remember what the other, wood and things. Yeah, it's fun to manipulate all those little things up and down on the tracks. I think it's a really nicely produced game. And then your lowest.
Oh, my lowest is game length. I do think that with some of the auctions, because you're bidding on different things, it just can get a little out of hand sometimes. And also, I'm looking at the back of the box here. It was refreshing my memory. Some of the goods gathering and the selling can take a little time. So I think that would be my negative. I gave that a 5.
A 5. Okay, yeah. And for me, game length was a 6, but still low. And it actually tied with the ease of the game, because sometimes those things, those different aspects are a little disjointed for me. Where it's like you're playing a couple of different games, and that can be a little difficult to introduce to people. And I kind of had to remind myself how to do a few of those things, so it brought down that score a little bit. But the other thing about the auctions is that we, partially because we have our children and it's harder to schedule things and bring people over to our house, and our kids are all under 6, so they can't play a whole lot of these types of games. Actually, none of these types of games. We do have games that we play with them. We hope that they can join us as time goes on. That is going to influence some of our scores also as time goes on. But we often spend a lot of time doing 2 people, and for me, the bidding for the railroads is a little intense with 2.
Yeah.
It's nicer when you have more
But
people.
last time we played this, we did play with, I think, is it 5 players? This is 5, we played with 5 or 6, 5
goes up to
players
5,
last time, and that still, it makes it a little more fun, but then you just get into that, okay, I'm out, and then the 2 people battle out.
Back and forth, yeah.
All right, so what's your overall score?
My overall score for this one is a 7.5, because it's fun to look at even when I'm getting confused or frustrated by the...
I think because of his appreciation for art, his art scores have brought things up, and I'm just like, well, they're cute. And I don't think I give enough credit to the artist for the game and appreciate that art, though Adam had some really good points. So my overall score for Racoon Tycoon was a 6.7. So fairly close on that.
Nice.
All right, are we ready for the next one?
Yes, our next one, and this is exciting because I know this is one of her favorites.
Yes, we remove this. So, the search for Planet X, we'll just...
No, okay. Okay.
Spoiler on scores, this is probably my top 10 of games. So the search for Planet X is a kind of a deduction game. It's like those games or those questions in, was it math or something in elementary school, where it's like, Joe has on a yellow hat, Bob does not like red hats, and so forth, so on.
Yeah.
So the search for Planet X is kind of like that. There is an app that goes with it that you do need to have to play the game. The app will generate the clues that you need. So basically, the board is like a solar system or whatever, and you've got asteroids and comets and dwarf planets and all these things that you're trying to figure out which quadrant of the planet or the galaxy or whatever we're in is located in, and you have to figure out where Planet X is before the other player, and then the other player gets points based on how many theories they've had about where something is. So even though you can find Planet X first based on theories and how far behind the other player is, the other player can actually win the game if they've had enough correct theories. And there's 2 levels to this game. There's a intermediate, I guess, say level where you have 12 quadrants or sections that you're looking for Planet X, and then there's another one that's just the flip side of the board that's 18 quadrants. But then within that, when you set up your game on the app, you can have, it gives you clues based on the level you choose. So like a beginner, it's going to give you 8 clues. On the intermediate, it's going to give you 4. I don't know if that's exactly right, but that's basically the overall idea of search for Planet X.
That's fair.
Anything to add?
No, I think, but I'm glad you touched on the theory thing, because the research thing where you're trying to guess where everything is besides just Planet X, I think that's one of my favorite things about it, because even if you're not sure where Planet X is, you can still feel like you're making progress, and that's important.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's times where my issue is I just sometimes don't pay close enough attention to what it actually says and what all the ramifications are, because it might say that no gas cloud will be the opposite of dwarf planet or something like that, and I won't realize that that also has implications for the other wedges around it. And so I'm sitting there thinking, there's too much unknown here. There's too much unknown. And then all of a sudden, it occurs to me about 3 turns too late that I should have eliminated more of the wedges. And so that's an exciting thing. And then when you flip over those little theories and you know that it's right and you got it, it's nice to add those points. So.
All right, so you want to do low score first?
We could do low score first,
Okay.
sure, and mix it up.
Let's do it.
So my low score was actually art for this.
Mine too.
Yeah, and it's just because it doesn't need to be beautiful.
There's not really an opportunity for art. In fact, I'd say the most beautiful piece of this game is this beautiful box, but the board itself.
There we go. You
Okay.
can see all of it.
The board itself is it's not really necessary. So I think
and there's actually a shooting star or something on the board that every single time I see it, I think it's a scratch on the board.
Oh yeah.
And
I
oh my
forgot
gosh,
about
it drives me crazy. Yeah, so I mean, not a real big. I gave it a 5.
Mine was a 6. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
but that's inconsequential in this particular game.
And your top scores.
My top score, I actually have 2 that are
That's
the
why I
same.
said scores,
Yeah.
because I did.
Okay, so yeah, mine was replayability, because this is one of our most replayed
Mm-hmm.
games, and so I mean, so far it has not. While it does, it's the same basic idea. Every game is different because it's randomly generated by the app, and that's kind of it makes it kind of fun and nice and different.
Yeah.
And then the other one for that's also a 10 is tactics, because you have to switch that up every single time. Like I have to be thinking a completely different way based on the information that I'm given.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we done the one where you have the most minimal.
I don't think
Because
so.
you can adjust 2 things. You adjust the number of wedges, and then in the app you can adjust how much information you're given at the
which I
beginning.
mentioned. Yeah.
And I can't remember. Oh god, I didn't know. I must have zoned out. I don't know if we've done the fully.
I don't think so.
We'll have to try that at some point to see. I know we've gone pretty close to the top difficulty level, but
Okay.
yeah, it's a
So
great game.
overall score.
Overall score, I actually I think it turned out as an 8.1 once I averaged everything together, but I gave it a +1 because it's something that's really important for us, and it's something that we always have so much fun playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's cheating, but I don't care because it's my game.
Well, my score with just the point averages was an 8.33, but I also gave it a plus because that was our top 10, and it was in 2022. We attempted to do a 10 by 10 challenge. We probably should have done more like a 5 by 5, but this was probably our top played game.
Yeah.
Like the number of times we played it for 2022, I believe that was.
And this was actually, on a side note, this was one that I went to the Renegade Con that they put on online during the pandemic, and this was one that people were talking about a lot in the chat rooms and stuff that were on there. And I heard so much about it, and I kind of it was brand new at that point, and I took a real risk because I was like, well, it's based on all these, like, I'm not getting to see it really, and I'm not really getting to play it or anything, but I think it might be, based on what people are saying, it might be the kind of thing that I'd like, and I'm glad I did. Yeah. And I'm glad Renegade did something like that during the pandemic too. That was very cool.
All right.
So now our last one for this cube
is Meeple
Circus.
All right, I'll let you talk about that one.
So Meeple Circus is really, it's a really family weight game. It's a I guess they call it a dexterity game because it's stacking, and it's really kind of loony. I mean, you're playing these bizarre soundtracks that you don't have to play them, but I like them. They're kind of funny. You got everything from like a metal circus that's like hard metal music to the traditional calliope boop, boop, boop,
Now wait, is that an app for this game?
Yeah, there's
Okay.
there's an app.
I couldn't remember.
Yeah, but it's not an app that actually influences the game as much. It's just mostly soundtrack, if I remember correctly.
Adam's our technology person, so
It's all good.
I don't know.
Yeah. So and then what you're basically doing is you're selecting cards that are going to give you bits every round, and they might be meeples, they might be little rods that are like beams, they might be little barrels, horses. There's a few that are specialized, like an acrobat that actually have a sticker on it, something a little bigger. And then you start your little timer and you have to stack everything, and you're trying to meet certain conditions. It might be that you have to have both your people on your beam, or the beam has to be balanced on the head of a certain acrobat or a certain horse or something like that. So first you're trying to get what you need for your win conditions, your points conditions, and then you're also trying to make that actually happen. And a lot of times the types of conditions that you have contradict each other, so you can't really get both of them, which is kind of silly. But it makes for kind of fun, and then at the end you're supposed to show off. By the third round, I think it is, the final round, you actually are supposed to add some kind of silliness to the game where you might have to clap your hands every time, just like between every thing that you put on there, or you have to say ta-da every time, or just funny stuff like that that's supposed to be designed to make it a little more fun for everybody.
So this, again, not one of my favorites. Because of those quirky things, I want to play a game, use my brain, come up with a strategy. However, with having young kids and wanting them to play games with us, this will be one that we want to introduce to them. And I think our oldest, you've played this with him once.
Yeah, I played it with him once.
But
he's just 5.5, so I may have to try it again with him, because with little kids, it says 8+ in the age range, and with little kids, the idea of grabbing a tiny thing and putting it on top of another tiny thing, usually their hand just kind of moves through it and knocks everything over.
Or they're not patient enough.
Yeah, they're not patient enough.
But, I don't think this would be one that we would want to get rid of yet,
Right.
even though my score is pretty low and I don't love it.
Yeah.
Because of the kids.
Yeah.
So let's add that caveat.
I will say that my dad, who's in his 70s, one of my favorite memories was him playing this.
Yeah, I remember that.
and needing to do ta-da every time.
And surprisingly, based on personalities, he enjoyed it and participated. So
yeah, it was
fun.
a lot of fun.
So high score.
My highest score is a 9, and that's for ease of play.
Mine's an 8, and that's also for ease of play.
Because it is, it's something you can, if you're into family weight type things, this is definitely family weight, and it's pretty easy.
All right, and your lowest score?
My lowest score is tactics, which I gave a 2, because there's just not a whole lot. I guess physically you have a few tactics, but it's essentially the same idea of, can I get these things to balance on each other? That's predictable. We're not talking, this isn't a Euro or something.
Well, and I put my lowest as a 3 for theme, and also for game length, because some of the things I'm just like, are we done yet? But the theme, you could really do this with any type theme. But within this theme, it works.
Well, I happen to really enjoy this theme, and I think especially with the soundtracks, they do a nice job of implementing it, and they include a lot of different kinds. I understand there's an expansion. I have no interest in getting an expansion for this game, but just because I think it does what it does, and it's not necessary to have more. But yeah, so fun for what it is, I think is what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we didn't have kids, it might.
I would be open to culling this if our kids don't end up being interested in it.
Yeah. All right. Overall score.
Once I average it all together, it's a 6.
Mine is a 4.8.
Yeesh. Yeah, so sorry, Madigo. It's a great game for what it is, but it's not necessarily our thing.
Right.
But for now, it'll stay in the collection until our kids get old enough to try it and see if they enjoy it.
Okay.
Okay, so that takes care of our first square that's up in that corner, and I guess we'll just work our way across or down or something. I hope you enjoy this. If you do, please feel free to subscribe to our channel so that you get updates when we post something new. And yeah, I think that's about all.
So thanks for watching our first video of Green Meeple, Purple Meeple.